Babe, are you sure it's a good idea taking this job when you have a phobia of balls? Yeah, to be fair, it has caused some problems. Hey, yo, fuck! No, listen, don't worry, B. I'm the ref. I won't have to kick them. That's scary as well, though, after the Turkey incident. Right, well, A, that hasn't happened in this episode yet. B, don't worry.
Just look at his face!
Yeah, my wife was right. This is scary as hell. Yo guys, it is your boy Earnin here, and you are watching FTW. This is of course the series where I bring to you the best and more frequently the worst of what football has to offer during the last 7 days. What's been kicking off in the world this week? Well, the biggest contract in sports history was offered to a baseball player. Not the balls again. As Japanese baseball player Shuhei Ohtani was given a deal worth $700 million over 10 years. He's going to have a very new answer at New Year's when his family ask him what his biggest motivation is.
Because of money. Even though you have 10 million trophy, you can't use that to go and buy food in the supermarket.
He's now officially overtaken Lionel Messi with his deal and has harsh words for the Argentine when asked whether Leo's still the GOAT.
Messi's alright. He's basic though. I'm better than Messi.
And you're telling me Todd Bowley co-owns the baseball team he plays for? This guy can't help himself. Expect an £800 million contract offer for Conor Gallagher imminently. On to the football though now, and the group stages of the Champions League are thin. The end. The climax. And it's definitely the end for Manchester United. Well, you just knew that was going to happen. United are out of Europe entirely after finishing bottom of Group A. They lost convincingly to German champions Bayern Munich as Copenhagen took second spot. Their appearance back in Europe's elite was pretty brief to say the least. Alejandro Garnacho will be looking for a while trying to find United in the round of 16. This man shushed Galatasaray and Copenhagen, and now look what you've done. To be honest, this eventuality was pretty easy to foresee when we take a look at United training before this vital match.
Right. 1, 2, 3.
The fact Jadon Sancho is not training better than this is insane. Call them Manchester, because we should ban them from playing football. Their admin was trying to get them hyped before this game, describing it as a Champions League clash, the last one for 5 years, boys.
Are we ready? I guess not.
It's fair to say Manuel Neuer did not have too much to do during this game. Meanwhile, I'm starting to realise we might have just got Erik ten Hag's quote wrong. My job comes to an end. Once again, Anthony was struggling to have an impact on an important game. Or a game of any kind for that matter. His best bet now is to try and calm down his own fans from this point onwards. And speaking of supporters, Bayern fans were chanting football's coming home once they went 1-0 up against the Red Devils. It's a shithousery award for the Bayern faithful. They also brought banners to this one at Old Trafford with Glazers out written on them. You know it's bad when the other club is protesting your owners. Eric himself said that he thought the performance was good and that they didn't deserve to lose the game. He thought Bayern were playing in red, clearly. Domino's tweeted that they just tried to deliver to Man United, but they've gone out. Getting it from a pizza company is crazy. And they deserve it, because Bayern centre-backs had life easy here. Deo Upamecano had more trouble helping Harry Kane pronounce his name than stopping United. Harold now has the same amount of assists at Old Trafford this year as Bruno Fernandes, and it was all thanks to his rousing speech.
Till that minute one, we press, we're aggressive, fucking chances, goals.
Hört sich an, als wäre sein Mund beim Zahnarzt taub.
United's woes were Copenhagen's joy though, as they qualified through to the round of 16 for only the second time in their history and celebrated by giving free beers away to their fans. It also means that Rasmus Højlund's younger brothers have made it further into the Champions League than he has, and Christmas dinner will be awkward between himself and Emil.
Enjoy the money. I hope it makes you very happy. Dear Lord.
Bayern's win now means they're unbeaten in 40 Champions League matches. Meanwhile, for United, it's depression for them and even their under-19s, who also finished bottom of the group. It's been a tough week for Newcastle as well, who also finished bottom of the group of death after a defeat to Milan. There's talk of Loris Karius starting a game in the Champions League, and now look, Newcastle and Manchester really are united. This group was absolute cinema from start to finish. A crazy win for Newcastle against PSG early on. Borussia Dortmund's sensational performances. Bleacher Report wished them luck before the group stages began, but they confirmed they didn't need any of that once they topped the group. It's a shithousery award for the Germans. Meanwhile, Nicolas Sula was practicing some yoga by clearing Kylian Mbappe's strike. Elsewhere in Milan were just being basket cases. AC Milan frauded Newcastle for Sandro Tonali only for him to get banned and then to knock them out of the Champions League. Sandro himself would have been gassed at Milan going through before realising his ACCA had Newcastle on it. Who am I kidding? He's going to be getting held hostage in Greg's after all of this. Fair to say Newcastle fans weren't too impressed by Alexander Isak in front of goal.
I fucking said hit it! What's he jesting it for, you fucking stupid...
And it's a shame for the plucky underdogs, I've got to say. How are they supposed to compete versus oil merchants like PSG? Jamal Lascelles ain't getting any more stamps on his passport for another 5 years, mate. And look, the Magpies have been getting grief on social media, but I'm afraid Chelsea fans, you can't get involved in this matter. Speaking of Chelsea, and it's been yet another bad week for the Blues, as they lost 2-0 in the Premier League to Sean Dyche's mighty Everton. Their redemption arc is coming in 2025. Enzo Fernandez will be depressed realising he's still on a 23-year deal. Meanwhile, these lot accumulated just 39 points from 39 games in 2023, the least of any ever-present Premier League side in history. Honestly, if I had points on my licence, Todd Boehly had probably bid for them. Speaking of which, and Maurizio Pochettino now wants more signings after the disappointing defeat. This guy is unserious. After all the deals you've done, Todd doesn't need asking twice. He's on his way to make a £238 million bid for Evan Ferguson. And elsewhere, Reece James is injured again. This new era is loading very slowly, I can't lie. The poor guy has obviously been struggling already with injuries, and I do wish him the best. But genuinely, he makes Thiago Alcantara look like Mo Farah. His whole leg has gone into administration. Mykhailo Mudryk showed his support for his Chelsea teammate on Insta, throwing Jarl into the sentence randomly. Hey, listen, someone's been watching too much Romelu Lukaku.
Yo, y'all wildin', man.
Nicholas Jackson got into a scrap during this one. He probably found out an Everton player had a new video message from Astrid where
I need a motivation tonight.
Meanwhile, Everton are a completely different entity after their 10-point deduction. Sean Dyche evolves when his side are even remotely on the verge of relegation, and had wise words for his Toffees players when they went 1-0 up here against Chelsea.
Yes! Yes! Now hold it! Park it!
At least the Blues only lost once this week though, unlike United. That's disgusting! They were outplayed by a Bournemouth side that's seeing a real resurgence right now. A 3-0 defeat at Old Trafford. I mean, it looks like these lot are spiralling towards the end of another manager here. Bournemouth's boss used to play for Athletic Club, and the Bilbao-based side tweeted about it after he was victorious against United as a player back in 2011. The FPL account ironically described exactly what Dominic Solanke has been doing all season. Meanwhile, surely things couldn't get any worse for Mark Goldbridge.
Lovely carrot cake that have been brought. Look at that. It's even got a carrot design on.
What a prat! Having Bruno Fernandes with Martial playing up front is pointless. It's like giving an F1 driver a wheelbarrow. Like giving Rasmus Højlund a shaver for Christmas. Because the Frenchman was completely ineffective in this football match. He took the day off firmly. Anthony needs to take his career off. I'm hoping one of the Bournemouth fans gave him a brochure for the city's university. Johnny Evans is old enough to be his lecturer. I mentioned Bruno Fernandes. After picking a yellow card up here, he is now suspended and is now heading out of the club car park, delighted knowing he hasn't got to play Liverpool.
Listen, we're out here. Suck all your mothers.
Trent Alexander-Arnold is going to have no remorse when Andre Onana asks him to go easy 10 minutes in. Meanwhile, Mo Salah will be hungry for goals, seeing the United clips emerging out of this game. Luton faced off against reigning champions Man City and led for a while before succumbing to a 2-1 defeat. Goals here from Bernardo Silva and Jack Grealish saved Man City, and news came just before kickoff that Erling Haaland was out injured for this game. FPL players were devastated seeing this revelation, and so was Haaland himself, realising he couldn't stat pad for this fixture. There were celebrations for Man City, of course. Jack Grealish was walking into nearby neighbour Janine's bedroom with the Jaeger bombs. Meanwhile, Bernardo Silva was working out how to get into the away end.
What are you doing, my friend?
And as Man City took the lead, Luton supporters were desperate to see their side get an equaliser. One woman even took it upon herself to yell out some tactical instructions. This is crazy. Your gran plays 4-2-3-1 on FIFA. Your nan deploys inverted wingbacks at Sunday League. Grange Postecoglou, Zinedine Zidane, you know. Thankfully, a stadium mic managed to pick up what she was recommending.
4-4-2.
But I felt bad for Luton, honestly. They deserved more, and shout out to them for taking it to Man City. I know I take the piss out of them for their away end, but I've been seriously impressed by them, especially against some of the bigger sides. They almost claimed the scalp of Arsenal last week, but for a last-minute Declan Rice goal, but he couldn't save them from defeat versus Aston Villa, as Unai Emery's side keep on winning. Now, Arsenal fans were left frustrated about the result, and also about a penalty decision that was waved away against Gabriel Jesus. That really is a statement made. If you thought I was talking about the game, no, I meant as in Arsenal, they've they've made a statement about the refs again. Mikel Arteta couldn't watch on as the final whistle blew. Meanwhile, Alexander Zinchenko was distracted by something altogether different. I mentioned Gabriel Jesus. He was the alleged victim of this penalty call. Hopefully, he wouldn't have taken the penalty because he doesn't have any faith in his own goal scoring.
Favorite goal you scored?
There's not a lot, so I can...
Meanwhile, at the other end, and Mikel Arteta was trying to convince Emi Martinez to return to the club.
I wanna say I'm sorry for the things I've done.
He's won a Yashin Award and he's got ADHD as well. He's perfect for a return to Arsenal. The man can't go 6 minutes without a scrap. Hey, he's fogging positive. That's the fogging standard. Tottenham and Newcastle faced off against each other in the VAR Classica. Two sides that have benefited from shocking refereeing decisions, and Tottenham were victorious with a 4-1 victory here. Brennan Johnson's badge couldn't quite deal with the carnage of this game. Heung-min Son and Richarlison combined really well in this one, and I've got to say, the Brazilian's groin doctor has really taken one for the team. He was probably watching in a hospital somewhere, gassed at Richarlison's performance.
Wow, I am the best in the world at what I do.
But he's got to maintain that now as the Brazilian, and things will become awkward when his wife reaches for the groin area.
Get your hand off my penis!
Late on, and Callum Wilson was unhappy with Tottenham goalkeeper Vicario's antics after laughing in the Englishman's face. He was quoted as saying it was disrespectful, though of course was laughing about Richarlison's struggles on his own podcast a few months ago. And Tottenham made sure to remind him of that fact with this cryptic tweet at the end of the game. Now, Erling Haaland had to apologise to Cristiano Ronaldo this week for replacing him in his ultimate team with his own cousin. The team this guy has built, by the way, whilst being a professional footballer, the little sweat. Big Ron will not be pleased when he realises he's been replaced by a Norwegian snowmobile rider. And Pele is only on the bench, but still could grab himself some goals, and the Brazilian will be upstairs somewhere claiming the goals that Erling scores with him here. Elsewhere, and Michael Owen told the brave story of when he was a child honing his craft this week.
You know, everything was a challenge. I'd eat an apple in the, you know, watching the TV at night, right, and the bin would be by the TV, you know, 6 meters away or whatever it was. And well, I would just do it. I had the bravery to miss, and for there to be a stain on the wallpaper, and my mum to absolutely scream at me. And that confidence, that sort of daring, that I'm desperate for a nod, but like a little wink to say, from my dad to say, bloody hell.
Well done, it's an apple. This guy is actually, I can't believe this isn't satire. He could be seen bragging to his mum after launching an apple into a bin from outside the 18-yard box. Poor Michael had been devastated when he realised there's only bananas in the house. He's definitely a guy that refuses to play GTA because it's got crime in it, like Elon. He'd cause an interdimensional rift after trying to boot up GTA 6 on an Xbox 360. Now, on Twitter, and Joey Barton caused a storm this week after insinuating that female footballers aren't allowed to comment on male football because it's a completely different sport, suggesting that the likes of Alex Scott shouldn't be hired and shouldn't be talking about the Champions League, for example. I'm not being funny, Joey, but I don't know if he's watched any women's football. It's not like the rules are different. They don't just start picking it up with their hands on the halfway line. Opta hit back with a statistic showing that he'd actually received more cards in his Premier League career than wins. I mean, this brother's barely qualified to talk about the men's game. Where do we draw the line? What, you played in the Bundesliga, not the Premier League? Yeah, sorry, mate, you're not qualified. Basically, he's trying to get attention because he's starting a new podcast. Old tweets of his show him actually praising women's coverage. But wow, man, honestly, that is going to be a really good podcast, guy. Tell you what, mate, these microphones you've got are really, really good. Well, do you make microphones, do you? Unless you fucking handcraft microphones, I don't think you should be giving your opinion on them. Meanwhile, Liverpool came back from behind to beat Crystal Palace in the Premier League. Harvey Elliott celebrated in interesting fashion. I'll let him land, man. He's been watching anime with Konate in the evenings. I'm convinced we become the best team in the world when we're 1-0 down, you know. Though we did lose to Union St. Gilles, I don't know how to. Though we did lose to USG in the Europa League. With a starting 11 you'd see in a GCSE English class.
16, 15, 16, 16, 16.
A little bit disappointing. Maybe croquet light. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not doing the voice for this one. On the European team, though, back in the Champions League now, Napoli are through to the round of 16 with the help of Victor Osimhen, who was crowned as the best African footballer of this year. He flew straight back from the awards in Morocco and scored immediately. A jet-lagged Osimhen on a plane does more than Anthony. Sevilla finished bottom of their group, meaning they're not even in the Europa League this season. The era is finally over. But it wasn't without the want of trying, as Sergio Ramos scored a Panenka penalty, then kicked Lonza's goalkeeper. Never changed, Sergio. Meanwhile, Swedish striker Johan Elmander was in the Galatasaray Ultras section, having played for the club during his playing career and played for Copenhagen's bitter rivals Brøndby. Meanwhile, Man City won to keep a 100% record in their group, and shout out Micah Hamilton, a local boy who's come through the youth academy, who scored on his debut for the club. A few years ago, there's a picture of him as a ball boy talking to Pep Guardiola. So wholesome stuff there.
Look at him. Wow, man, he grew up, huh?
Back in the Premier League, and after Tottenham's defeat to West Ham, Mesut Ozil claimed that Bottle FC were returning. I don't know what it is about Germans and shithousery awards this week, but it's another one here. Man City star Phil Foden can now legally drive on the roads. The guy's got a girlfriend and 2 kids. They were probably driving themselves to school half the time. His journeys to Man City's training ground must have been filled with incidents before today. It also revealed the fact that his middle name is Walter, probably the first man to be named Philip Walter since 1833. Meanwhile, after Fulham slapped West Ham United 5-0, Alex Iwobi had a special performance in the changing rooms.
Thank you so much. I'm trying to build them bombers.
Okay,
Back at West Ham, and there's the news that Kurt Zuma's house has been burgled. Thankfully, footage of the main suspect has in fact been found. But listen, all I'm saying is it's a long day for the burglar when Kurt realises they have a pet. Dele Alli is back in training at Everton, wishing him the best before a potential return back to the first team. Staying at Everton, they put out their team sheet for the under-17s, and it has a familiar name in between the sticks. These lot have regenerated Jordan Pickford with longer arms.
You fucker, but you clever fucker.
And at Wolves, crazy scenes from left-back Johnny Otto, who elbowed a youth player in training, then spat at a coach, which has of course led to him being suspended. Over in Italy, and it's all kicking off right now, as does the news that Paul Pogba could be handed a 4-year ban after failing a doping test in recent months. His brother is going to be delighted hearing about this potential ban. Honestly, that's it for football. You might as well slap him in jail. And Matthias will have a message for Paul if they end up on the same wing.
I knew you'd end up here, little nigga. Right where you belong.
Meanwhile, don't be surprised to see Graham Souness doing up jail football analysis. And you really do have to wonder, where's the prison guard in all of this? Zlatan Ibrahimovic is back in the world of football, joining the board of directors at AC Milan, and that is going to cause absolute chaos. This man has a massive ego and will be devastated when he realises they don't have the budget for a 6-kilometre high diamond statue of him. You can't just write Ibra equals God on the kit, mate. Jose Mourinho was left fuming at Roma after they were brought down to 9 men thanks to 2 red cards, including one for a shocking challenge from Romelu Lukaku. You can't foul like that when you're wearing Timberlands, mate. You'll hit his shit. Jose left the stadium early without conducting any interviews, but did at least get the time to pass on some notes through a ball boy to his goalkeeper Rui Patrizio. Inter forward Marcus Thuram is having a sensational season, but that's not distracting him from being an absolute menace to Benjamin Pavard. Legendary centre-back Giorgio Chiellini has announced his retirement from the beautiful game. He's done 1 video with away days and immediately retired. What a career the former Juve man had, so it's time for him to drag himself back into retirement and can now be left to absolutely terrorise local bar staff when he heads down to the pub with his other retired mates. On the theme of Italian legends, and Andrea Pirlo was left shaken and stirred as well by one of his players down on the touchline. In Spain, and Girona kept up their incredible start to the season by beating fellow Catalonians Barcelona 4-2. One Barca fan had all bases covered in the crowd. Meanwhile, Lamine Yamal now becomes the youngest player to ever lose to Girona. Rafinha and Robert Lewandowski had a miscommunication for a free kick during this one that left Robert absolutely fuming. Meanwhile, Xavi has some serious questions to answer, as he played left-back Alejandro Balde at centre-back, right-back Joao Cancelo at left-back, and then centre-back Jules Koundé at right-back. This is the Xavi that turned up for this football match. Meanwhile, it was a great day for Miguel Gutierrez, a former Real Madrid youth graduate who scored in this one. Elsewhere at Barca, and apparently their players have been banned from showering at the club. Let's be honest, they haven't paid their energy bills. Robert Lewandowski's going to have to get abstract keeping himself warm in the shower with no hot water. Ronald Araujo has been sporting a crazy mask recently.
You merely adopted the dark.
There's a new signal appearing above the Nou Camp. Jude Bellingham scored once again in Real Madrid's draw versus Real Betis. He was getting grief from one of the home fans, but had a solid way to reply. Meanwhile, his Real teammate Eduardo Camavinga has added yet another skill to his collection. Now, there were serious scenes at Granada versus Athletic Club, but the game had to be postponed and cancelled after a fan fell ill in the crowd. And tragically, unfortunately, that supporter did pass away. Both clubs paid their tributes, though, to the fan in question. Obviously, a tragic situation. No fan should be going to a game and not returning. Now, Arandina and the 4th tier Spanish side were celebrating the fact they've knocked out Cadiz for a massive cup upset in the Copa del Rey. Meanwhile, at Racing Santander, and one fan ran onto the pitch, kicking an extra ball towards the action just as his side scored a goal. Thankfully, it didn't get ruled out. Now, over in Germany, and there was a mental result there, as Eintracht Frankfurt demolished Bayern Munich 5-1. Manuel Neuer's rating could have been better, and Thomas Tuchel was left chasing down Frankfurt's left back, fuming at the fact that he'd been embarrassed. And the reason is because he started Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting. I'm telling you now. Meanwhile, for Mario Götze, and he was trying to gloat to his former side without anybody noticing. One mid-table 3rd tier side, though, have got the better over both of them, as Saarbrücken continued their crazy run in the DFB Pokal by beating Frankfurt, having beaten Bayern already. Thomas Müller was clearly frustrated when that result happened a few months ago, as his phone is absolutely demolished and beyond saving. He should be focusing on going to Carphone Warehouse. As for Jamal Musiala, he might want to concentrate on improving his golf skills. At Bayer Leverkusen, they're having a sensational start to the season, still unbeaten, but Jeremy Frimpong isn't letting that distract him from learning about geography.
Geography is my thing, bro.
And down in the 2nd tier, Hansa Rostock versus Schalke was developing into a solid game in the 78th minute. The standout thing here, though, is this picture is still taken in the first half. Yep, this is after Schalke fans caused a massive amount of damage to Hansa Stadium, ripping up seats and throwing them about, which led to an over half-an-hour stoppage. In France, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is hitting form for Marseille with 10 goal contributions in his last 4 games. For Pierre, and he's heading out of the stadium celebrating this weekend. Down in the French 6th tier, and shout out US Revel, who have been drawn against the mighty PSG in the Coupe de France next round. A massive tie for them, and their players were loving it after seeing the draw. In Turkey, though, we've probably got the most mental story of the week, as after feeling aggrieved by refereeing decisions, the chairman of Ankaragucu ran onto the pitch and punched the official before one of his mates then kicked him down on the ground. The referee was left with a massive black eye, and since then, all football across the country has been cancelled. The chairman said he only slapped him, even though there is quite literally video evidence. Crying out loud, Anthony Taylor would have been in ICU if he was in Turkey. Right, yeah, pass me the scalpel. What do you mean? Oh, for crying out loud, man. How is it off? This absolutely cannot run, though, and I hope the stoppage in Turkish football has done something to prevent this from happening in future. Now, though, it's time for some different strikes, because it's your goals of the week. First of all, we head over to Uganda, where Ibrahim Dada was clearly watching Ipswich's entry from last week, because this Trivella is absolutely beautiful. Down the lower leagues of English football, though, now, and take a bow, Nathan Lowe with this strike for Ashton United. Well, the final goal of the week comes from Italy. I'm sure it's not a massive surprise to you, as Atalanta scored in the final minute to beat AC Milan 3-2. A ridiculous backheel finish from Luis Muriel. Now in Brazil, and stuff is getting absolutely crazy as their league season is finished, and it's resulted in Santos being relegated for the first time in their history. A club, of course, that's seen the likes of Neymar, Rodrigo, and of course the great Pele come through their ranks. It's led to mass protests and fires across the area. Honestly, I should have got Neymar back. Him with one leg does a better job. At the other end of the table, though, Palmeiras won the league with the help of star boy Endrick. He now has the same amount of league titles at the age of 17 as Botafogo do in their entire history. Hello all, and welcome to The Beautiful Game, the segment where we take a look at the poetic and brilliant side of the game that we love. We are back by popular demand for yet more glorious beauty. Oh God, Mandy, Jesus. And that concludes The Beautiful Game. Over in Saudi Arabia, and Cristiano Ronaldo scored a goal in his 1200th game as a professional footballer. An unreal record, by the way. How do you even play 1,200 games? He celebrated like this, something I'm sure Marcus Rashford will take credit for. And staying in Saudi Arabia, we saw the weirdest penalty of all time. As the goalkeeper made a save, claimed hold of the ball, his defensive teammate congratulated him, but also put his hand on the ball. Well, it was obviously an offence, and clearly a penalty in what is probably one of the most stupidest spot kicks you'll ever see given. given. Down in Belgium, there were mental scenes at Beerschot as all manner of chaos led to a massive 8 red cards being given, 3 of which were double yellows and the other 5 being straight red cards. And staying on the Belgian theme, it's been far too long in this episode without seeing a goalkeeping shambles. What a save! Dutch legend Dennis Bergkamp has been honoured by getting his own banknote in the country. It's got to be worth a lot, hasn't it, really? It has to be a good footballer for that. Imagine an Andre Onana note right now. That economy's in the bin. That's worth £2.47. Bulgarian legend Dimitar Berbatov snuck into a 5-a-side game in his homeland by disguising himself as a homeless man. If he didn't score at least 12 goals, I'd be disappointed in him. Meanwhile, back in Turkey, and Besiktas have taken the unusual approach of banishing 5 of their players for performance and incompatibility reasons. Among those included are Eric Bailly and Vincent Abubakar, and they're lucky the Besiktas president hasn't knocked them out yet. In Northern Ireland, and this Linfield defender won't want to reminisce on this back pass attempt, though thankfully his side did come back to win the game in the second half. In the world of futsal, the greatest goal ever scored. If only it wasn't for the knee injury, man, I could have done something similar. And in Uruguay, these lot got a little bit over-exuberant after scoring a goal in the week, knocking over a barrier and their own fans. Look, listen, passion merchant. Closer to home, and Joe Bellingham got himself on the score sheet for Sunderland against Leeds. Jude's response was to let him cook. I can't believe we've got 2 of these Bellingham guys, man. He was also involved in the worst offside call of all time. Meanwhile, down at Barnet, and shout out Harry Pritchard, their captain got himself his own hand of God goal. In Serbia, Red Star Belgrade has done the unthinkable, beating a ridiculous record from all the way back in 1957. They have now gone 122 games back-to-back unbeaten at home. In India, and talk about pressure during this penalty shootout. Crazy scenes over in the Asian Champions League, where 2nd Division Japanese side Vent 4 at Kofu, who of course qualified by winning the Japanese Cup last season, have now won their group. Insane stuff. It's like Blackburn Rovers just turning up and winning a Champions League group. Former Crystal Palace manager and Dutch legend Frank de Boer has been sacked as Al Jazeera manager after just 13 games in charge. Yeah, the news is he's shit. In the Philippines, and it's a cup final. You've got to be alert at all times. Not just drop the ball as there's a striker behind you and have it looped over your forehead.
Get it backward him! Game on!
But not all shot stoppers are in FTW for bad reasons, as Baglan Dragons' goalkeeper has scored his 2nd goal of the season. Meanwhile, this corner, feeling like it probably shouldn't have been allowed to stand, if I'm being honest. Now that it's time for Still 0-0, and you guys know the score by now, this is a segment of the show where I bring to you the best of Sunday League and amateur football. I mentioned corners just then, and on the theme of those, we've got a 200 IQ one here, as Wondon puts it down and gently taps it so that his mate can come over, run directly from the corner spot, and unleash an incredible strike. Who said there's not advanced tactics in Sunday League? On to the weird stuff though now. Now shout out HITC7s for this story, but the Albanian Women's Premier Division has brought about some ridiculous scorelines. With the amount of goals scored after 7 games is out of control, and one striker by the name of Megi Doci has got 48 goals in 7. Over in Turkmenistan, and a side by the name of Arkadag have won their first league title by winning every single game with 4 matches to go. A crazy achievement for a side that's competing in its first ever league. Yeah, that's right, these lot were founded in 2023, but were founded by an ex-leader of the country, bought the league's best talent, and have also been accused of match fixing. Allegedly. Please don't hunt me down, whoever that leader is. And finally, there is the ridiculous story of Pontypridd United in Wales, who have been given the most mental punishment that the world of football has potentially ever seen. These lot were found guilty of alleged breaches of player contracts, and so were handed a 141-point deduction. The Welsh FA clearly took pity on them, only giving them 6 of those points for this season, but the rest of the 135 are going to happen next year. So Pontypridd, it's a wrap. You're not staying up. Even Sean Dyche couldn't save these lot. That though is going to wrap up football this week, and I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, then feel free to slap a like on the video, and of course subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at @officialfng on Twitter, Insta and TikTok. It's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.